A few features that I'll walk through in this is like the support of GitHub on-prem. So GitHub adapter is something that we have already supporting, but we have been supporting only for cloud. And we have extended this support for GitHub for on-prem. The metadata or the artifacts that we support for on-prem is branch, commit, pull request, very same to what we have for cloud. Along with this, we also support issue as in metadata for both GitHub on-prem as well as for GitHub Cloud. So these are all the functionality that we have built, which will be available in 4.1 release. And for on-prem, the versions that we are supporting is above GitHub, 3.17, 3.18 we have validated, and anything above 3.17 is what we call it out as certified and supported from ConnectALL end. So to talk about the use cases like GitHub Enterprise Server is where developers write code, they manage their PRs, they commit their branches, and Rally Software, Jira are where the teamwork goes in, like where you have the user stories, defects, tasks, iterations, etc. So the major pattern, the use case that we are actually covering up in this section is like we have come up with four patterns. So wherein, for example, say a user story is being created and assigned to a developer, and the developer starts working on it, which means he makes it to in progress. Once he makes it to in progress, we'll have an automatic branch created in GitHub. So we'll have an automation that goes from user story to GitHub branch, which can be done in there. Now, the next thing is like as a delivery lead, when I have the change set to be automatically created in the correct user story, when a GitHub code commit is being done on the GitHub, it creates a change set. So that integration we will be able to solve in here, as well as the pull request will be able to synchronize between the GitHub and Rally user story. And finally, when the pull request is merged by the developer on GitHub, we'll be able to close the story, close the respective story in Rally. So these are the major patterns that we are covering up in this session. And a few changes that we have done with what you would have not seen in the previous version and what you have in here is like on the connection page, we have done a little bit of change wherein initially on the connection page you will see the username and password, though GitHub doesn't support basic username password authentication and it is only going to support the PAT or the personal access token. We removed that username password session here and we cleaned it up so only the PAT goes in. So this is a small change. Since we are doing this part of GitHub, we went ahead and cleaned up that connection section. So here, as whatever I was talking about, we have explained it to, what is the type of automation that needs to be created and what are the fields or the metadata, the fields that we have created. I've given it here. I'll dive into the application so that we can go ahead and have a look into how the automations looks like. Few things that we'll have to take care when we are creating, especially the branch and stuff, is like the branch in the automation. The branch we can prefix it. Like for example, you can have a prefixed a branch name called feature, or you wanted to call it as a story, you wanted to call it as a defect. We can give it to a constant value in our field mapping so that always it gets a prefix saying that it's easy for us to identify where it is. As well as we are exposing up a base branch. Base branch is where you can decide on the branch in which you want to write, whether it can be a main branch or it can be a master branch. You will be able to set these things in your field mapping. We have exposed two fields like the branch prefix and the base branch in the automation. So this is more about how the settings can be done across the pattern that we have solved. Let me jump into the automation so I can show you from in here. So I've created for GitHub like four automations wherein my first automation runs. It starts with a Rally user story, which creates the branch. And the next one is like when a commit is added in GitHub, it synchronizes as a change set on the story. The pull request can be synced between, and then we can also have defects to issues that is happening. So let me open up EAP for a quick demo on this Rally. Let me add a new story in here. So I'm going to add for demo. So as said, I've given a flow filter. So whenever a new story is added and it gets into in progress, the flow filter I've given is like when it gets into the in progress state, create a branch in GitHub. So I'm creating the story in here, and let me open up my automation and run this. Sorry. So this is my GitHub. Let me get into the code. And a new branch. So the feature is the base branch folder that I've given it in my automation. A new branch gets created in here. Now, let me go into the branch and I'll create a code. Whatever, and I'm just giving a name. And I'm going to say commit changes. So one thing that we have to ensure that we add is like in the commit message, I should add the ID of the rally story or defect, whatever we have. So this ID, that's how it recognizes that it has to get into this story or defect, whatever you're synchronizing. So the ID reference needs to be given. It can be given in any part of this commit message, but this ID should be always there. And I commit the changes. So when I commit the change and I run my second automation, that is this to so it's get updated. I had a couple of other things that's been running behind, so it's got created in here. Let me go into the rally. So if you see here, the connections are not there yet, but since the commits is added, you will be able to see the chain set created in here. So in from here itself, for example, I'm a product owner. I really don't need to get into GitHub. I can just from here open up GitHub and see what are all the changes that has gone in. All that integration we'll be able to do it. Now, let me do the pull request. Now I get into my GitHub and go to my pull request. I will see this is added. So I compare and do the pull request in here. I'm not merging the pull request. I just create this pull request. So once a pull request is added in here, let me run the automation for the pull request. So in here, the pull request gets created. Let me go back to and if you see in here, when I refresh it, the connection section comes up with the pull request. So the connection sections come in and I have the chain set. My automation, I've given it in such a way that if the pull request adds, keep the schedule status defined. Now when I merged, now I go back to GitHub. I merge my pull request. Once I merge it, I run this automation again. Once it's merged in, it gets into the accepted state. So this is the flow From the time you start creating the story, moving it in progress, making all the code commits and everything, having the pull request merge, the story moves in as accepted. So this is a flow that we have worked on in the GitHub on-prem. Along with branch commit pull request, we are also extend our support for supporting issues. So you can go ahead, add an issue in GitHub. It can add a defect or it can add a user story into the destination system. So all that functionality is what we have done here. We've explained like couple of limitations that we have is like we don't do inline attachment or any attachment or any documentation that's there on the comment section. Those things are not supported. There is no API support for that, as well as the relationship synchronization is not supported. Custom fields are not supported in GitHub. Asset attachment is not supported. Multiple users, this is one, like for example, if there are multiple assignees that happens on GitHub, you cannot bring the multiple users. It randomly picks one of the user and only that user gets into Rally. That's again an API limitation that we have. And milestone projects of GitHub is not added as on now. So this is all that I have on the GitHub.